everybody. Welcome to CADE Estate. I am so excited to share this afternoon with you, and thank you for welcoming us into your homes. Yes, you did sign up under the CADE Facebook and Instagram, but we are here with partner, general manager, the one and only John Conover at our estate in Stag's Leap District. John, how are you doing today?
Well, as good as possible. First, hopefully everybody has a glass of wine. It's 2 o'clock here in Napa and 5 o'clock on the East Coast, but I want to raise my glass to all of you, and hopefully you're safe in your homes with a great glass of Plum Jack CADE Odette wine, and we can tell our stories to you today and kind of how we got here and how our social consciousness and being Gold LEED certified and organically farmed is at the core of who we are as an organization.
Well, let's sit. First of all, what's in your glass?
I have some 2019 CADE Sauvignon Blanc made by Danielle Sereau, our great winemaker up at CADE. And one thing I did leave out before we talk about the wine and our organic program is gratitude, a word that we use quite a bit here at our company, our family. In 1995, there was 6 of us that started Little Plum Jack Winery, and our family that grows grapes, makes wine, sells it, has grown substantially to now include 4 estates. But that same gratitude we had back then, we have today, and are so thankful of you who have supported us all along. Because someone asked me, what's special about wine? And wine is so much more than just a commodity, milk or water, something about those lines. It's about land and people and memories and experiences you have. And I hope when this all clears up, hopefully in the summer, fingers crossed here, we can all celebrate and have you visit us here in the Napa Valley and raise a toast to all of us getting through this horrible time.
Yeah, together. Well, John, you started with Plum Jack in the mid '90s. And grew with them as we opened CADE and then Odette. What was your motivation for building the first LEED Gold winery up at CADE?
So Plum Jack, our crown jewel to a certain extent, our first winery was founded by Gavin Newsom and Gordon Getty. I joined Plum Jack very late in the year in 1998. And Plum Jack was and will always be about land, about an estate vineyard in Oakville. Robert Parker calls it the Rodeo Drive of addresses, but I can this book. But we had a little Plum Jack winery, and after 4 or 5 years, decided we were ready for a new challenge, a new project. And I live in St. Helena with my wife Ann, my daughters Katie and Maddie, and my next door neighbor over a barbecue at night said, "You know, John, I have some land for sale along Hell Mountain. You should come take a look at it. Great terroir, great dirt, water, exposure. And I think you guys, knowing what you've done at Plum Jack, can make some great wines in the Hell Mountain AVA on a hillside, 1,700 feet up on the side of a hill. Snow in the winter, above the fog line. Very unique, very different than Plum Jack. Not better or worse, but different." And so I drove up there in 2005 and decided he was right. A small parcel had been cleared at 18 acres. There was 3 acres that had not been cleared, which we eventually planned a Cabernet Sauvignon. And this was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because more often than not, you're buying someone else's dream, someone else's idea. Again, Napa Valley was originally planted in the 1860s and 70s, so there wasn't a whole lot of fallow land left, and this was one of those parcels. So we got to think, how are we going to plant this vineyard and do it in a socially responsible way? So you think about it, when you build something and plant a vineyard, it's for a lifetime, my lifetime, our lifetimes. It's also for a generation that I've yet to see a winery torn down, or I've yet to see a vineyard be replanted to forest, oaks, or pines. So we had the chance to do it, I think, the right way. We're a very socially conscious organization, and at the time, my partners, Gavin Newsom, was the mayor of San Francisco. And Gavin and I were up there on the parcel. We're looking down beautiful views. Those of you who haven't been to CADE, put that on the list. The views are unbelievable. All the way down the Napa Valley, you can see the bay, the East Bay, glimpses of San Francisco. And we're sitting on this pile of rocks that, in hindsight, wasn't a good idea because it was full of rattlesnakes. And it was the middle of summer. And we had just enjoyed our first glass of Plum Jack Cabernet, because we tend to think better, clearer, the more wine we drink, plus get more creative. So we were in our second glass, and again, as mayor, Gavin had initiated gold LEED certification. LEED, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. This is the building standard for green building. And it's an organization out of, I believe, New Hampshire that certifies your company being gold, silver, platinum, the highest, or just LEED certified. And he said, John, we should build a gold LEED certified winery here. And I thought, that's a fabulous idea, but I had no idea what the man was thinking about. I've never heard that term before. I thought it was actually the Plum Jack wine speaking and not LEED.
Well, it's pretty unusual to build, well, at that time, it had not been done.
Not been done. It was a pioneering effort. And on one of our future broadcasts, we're going to talk about other innovative things we've done, cutting edge, risk-taking, entrepreneurial things we've done, such as screw cap. But that's for a later discussion. So no one had done it before, and I went back down to my office in Oakville at Plum Jack, and believe it or not, we were just getting the internet here in the Napa Valley. We are in the country, we're farmers. If you look behind me, we're surrounded by vineyards and hillsides. And I looked up online, the internet, LEED, because I did not know what he was talking about. And it really opened my mind of LEED and what it stood for and why it was important. Again, we're socially conscious. We realized that we had to build something green because it was, at the end of the day, just like wine's subjective, it was the right thing for us to do. So we were the first gold LEED certified organically farmed winery in the state of California. If you can believe that.
Wow.
We're a bunch of granola types out here, green people in California, and that had not been done yet. So yeah, we were the first to do it.
Amazing.
So a lot of pioneering efforts went into building CADE. A couple of fun stories. A lot of concrete, glass, and steel up there. Solar power, this is all about LEED. And I went to our local concrete fellow that had been making concrete for 50 years, and I said, I want to buy green concrete from you. And green concrete is fly ash. So ash from a coal-fired power that we recycle into concrete as building material. I said, John, this is where the bleep comes in. I don't do any green concrete. I said, okay. So I went back down to my office, I sat there, and I'm sure there was a glass of wine involved. I wanted to think why he didn't want to sell me green concrete. And I came to the conclusion that he didn't know how to. And we in this world love change until change affects us. We're forced to change some change. So hired a consultant to come up and show my local concrete man how to mix green concrete. So he supplied us with tens of thousands of yards of green concrete. So now when I invite all of you to come join us here in Napa, because what we did at CADE, you can buy green concrete. And that's how change started. It started with a change that Gavin initiated in San Francisco that's translated into agriculture, into Napa Valley. Now we have vendors from around the world, from Italy, New Zealand, from Australia, to local vendor way of doing it. And so we'll share all our secrets. Makes Napa Valley a better place. We'll give you the recipe on how we did it.
That's right.
And we want to share that.
That makes sense. And I mean, it was pretty innovative, again, at the time, because LEED is really an urban idea. So the idea of building a LEED gold winery on the side of a mountain took a lot of courage, I would say.
It didn't translate too well. Yeah, LEED is great for office spaces, industrial spaces like in San Francisco or Los Angeles, Dallas, Texas, around the country. As an example, you get points for doing certain things. All the building materials are recycled. The steel is recycled, solar powered, the concrete which I described. The insulation is all recycled blue jean scraps. So my blue jeans from Levi's that you see here, the leftover scraps are shredded and then sprayed into the wall.
Amazing.
And but you get extra points for train service and bus service.
Ah,
Obviously, being on the top of a mountain in Napa Valley, there's no train and bus service, so we weren't able to capture those points. So we had to make up for it in other ways. But yeah, we were the first goalie certified winery in the state of California.
I have seen those bicycle racks up there. Does anyone actually ride their bicycle up Battle Mountain?
We do have bicycle racks, so I will make this commitment right now. If you ride up the 1,800-foot incline up to CADE on Howell Mountain, I will buy you a tasting and a glass of water, and I will personally cheer you for riding up the mountain.
That's impressive. Yeah. Well, besides Gavin and his commitment to LEED building in San Francisco, were you inspired by anyone else in your wine travels?
Well, it was. We do, and we always use new team members here at Plumpjack, and unfortunately we can't take all the trips we do. We do local field trips because we embrace our competitors. We're in rising tide floats all boats. So we love to go to Sonoma and taste their great Chardonnays and Pinot Noirs. We love to go to our Napa neighbors. Being here at Odette in Stag's Leap, the first phone call I got when we bought this property was from the late, great John Schaefer. John called and said, "Welcome to the neighborhood." But that's the culture and the spirit of Napa Valley. So we were on one of our field trips, and we had to get on a plane to do it. We were over in the great Burgundy region, where they're best known for their Chardonnays and Pinot Noirs. The second wine being made from Chardonnay, the Odette Reserve Chardonnay that we're tasting today. And we were at maybe the most famous Chardonnay Pinot Noir producer in the world, the great Domaine Romani Conti. And we were honored and privileged to spend half a day with Hubert de Villaine, who is the owner of Chateau of Domaine Romani Conti. And I don't remember, I'm going to get this wrong, but I believe his family has owned the domain for 5 or 6 generations. And we were touring the vineyards with them. It was just a day. I get goosebumps thinking about it. And at the end, we were drinking some Le Montrachet, his great Chardonnay, arguably the greatest Chardonnay on the planet. And Hubert was saying a Japanese businessman had just offered an outrageous amount of money to buy his domain, his winery, which produces 3,000 or 4,000 cases in 1 year. And I look at him, and I won't be able to duplicate what he said because he did it in such a soulful French way. I said, "Hubert, are you thinking about selling it?" And he looks at me and says, "John, I cannot sell something I don't own." And he paused. I paused. And he said, "John, I'm a caretaker of the Domaine Romani Conti during my lifetime. I'm a caretaker of this winery, this building. We're in this nondescript building in the middle of Burgundy, and across the street were his vineyards." And he goes, "I'm the caretaker of these vineyards during my lifetime as well." So we're just caretakers of these businesses and of this planet. So I want to leave the Domaine Romani Conti better than when I inherited it. So they farm all organically, and their winery was built 6 generations ago, so it's not LEED certified. But that responsibility, that caretaking of land, of vineyards, and of people are essential to who we are as an organization. And Hubert so inspired me to do that. Yeah, again, we are caretakers. We're going to dedicate our life to growing grapes and making wine at our 4 estate wineries. And when we're gone, unfortunately, to the big vineyard in the sky, I want this place to be in better shape than when we inherited it. And I hope the next generation will leave it in better shape than when they inherited from us here today.
Wow, that's an inspirational story. When you started CADE, organic was kind of a new idea, organic farming and organic, and certainly LEED building. But what made you take that jump?
Well, organic. Organic is mostly relating to pesticides and herbicides. And I was thinking about it, and at the time there were a lot of larger businesses, not only in the wine business, but that was using organic as a marketing catchphrase, implying that organic is the reason to acquire a head of lettuce, a bottle of wine, whatever you might want to say. And lettuce was good, the wines were good. But as I like to preach in our organization, if you want to come join us, if you want a bottle of our wine, you're looking for something good, we're primarily of winemaking and grape growing. And at the time, domestically, the great grape producers had not yet embraced organic grape growing. We're now biodynamic. And the more I thought about it, putting chemicals on something you put in your body, or putting chemicals on something you put in the land, just never made sense to me. I think alcohol will kill pretty much everything, and that wasn't the point of it. So again, we pioneered a lot of the organic grape growing in the Napa Valley. And I think that if you look at the track record of Plumpjack, CADE, Odette, and now we're about to have some adaptation Cabernet, that we proved the point that you can make some of the best wines, not only in Napa, arguably the world, and you can do it in a socially conscious way. You can do it organically and green. So that was kind of the point. Sandra's from the great state of Mississippi, went to Louisiana State University. Congratulations.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers, won the national championship. And Sandra always says, people, and I think as organizations, don't watch your lips, watch their feet.
That's right.
So if you watch the way we operate our business, our winery, our staff, our culture, is what you see is what you get.
That's right.
That's who we are.
That's right. I tell people all the time, there's no smoke and mirrors. You can come have a look around, see what we're doing, and we meet the moment.
We meet the moment.
What's in this glass, John? This is a relatively newer wine for us.
This is actually just bottled. So my first tasting after it went from French oak barrels into the bottle, which is the Odette Reserve Chardonnay. And we don't grow these grapes. So estate means that we grow the grapes on the property. We crush, ferment, and barrel age them. So this is not an estate Chardonnay because we don't own the land.
Well, and if we grew Chardonnay here, it wouldn't be as delicious.
Yeah, probably Stag's Leap in the right place for it, in our opinion.
Yeah.
The Chardonnay does, I think, better down in the Carneros district.
Yeah.
However, Aaron Miller Chardonnay, a big chunk of it does come from Aaron Miller, who's the winemaker at Plumpjack, comes from Rutherford. So he'd probably have a debate on that one.
It's true.
But these grapes came from our good friend Lee Hudson. Lee developed vineyards down in the Carneros district, the southern end of Napa Valley, right on the bay, influenced by the fog, the wind. Probably Cabernet would have a tough time getting it right. And he figured out in the late 60s, and one of the largest land holding entities down there. And he grows great Chardonnay, he grows great Pinot Noir. Also, about half of our Syrah, those of you who love Plumpjack Syrah, comes from Lee's vineyard down there. And he grows a little bit of Merlot. And Lee is the sweetest way, a Texan from Houston, Texas. And I'm a Texan too, so I guess we have to get along, fellow Texans. And Lee is a handshake guy. And he goes, I don't do business with jerks, and I want to do business with great wineries. So Lee has a block of Chardonnay. He would tell you his favorite, Shot Wente clone. Very small clusters, shot berries, some that are acid bombed, some that are rich and fruity. So this wine has a lot of freshness to it. And he keeps a third of it for his Hudson Chardonnay, which is a beautiful wine. A third goes to John Consgard. He makes a famous wine called Consgard, the Judge. And then Odette is lucky enough to get a third as well. And our great winemaker Jeff Owens makes this here at the Odette Estate. Polar opposite of Aaron Miller's. And as I have two daughters, as I mentioned, Katie and Maddie. And which do you like better? They're both equally different daughters, different personalities. With these wines, the Odette Reserve is very different than the Plumpjack. The Plumpjack is very different than Odette. I think we'd be failing if they were the same.
Oh, for sure.
They're meant to be different.
For sure.
This is a decadent wine. This is a wine that's rich mouth coating, just an over-the-top, rich, wonderful wine.
I think what we do best is honor the place.
It is, sense of place.
Yes, yes. And if Aaron tried to make Plumpjack Chard the way that Jeff makes Odette Chard, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work.
There's two words that don't translate from French. First is entrepreneur, and the second is terroir. And terroir is a sense of place, just as you mentioned. And our goal as vintners, as winemakers, is to let those grapes represent that sense of place. So Stag's Leap, very different than Oakville, very different than Howell Mountain. And again, it would be a failure if the three of them tasted the same. It'd be a failure if I'm gonna collect Schaefer wines for years, our next door neighbor. or Realm across the street from us, another great producer. Our wines taste different than theirs, but that's the way it should be because our terroir is different than theirs.
That's right. That's right. I think even just driving down the Silverado Trail, you can see on one side of the road there are shrubby kind of oak trees, and on the other side of the road there's a conifer forest. That alone implies different terroir on either side of the road, which is, I don't know, a half a mile? It's incredible, the diversity that we have here in the Napa Valley. Oh, we have a question from Instagram.
Yes. Instagram says they've been seeing a lot of pictures of John Conover surfing in the last week. So they want to know how surfing has influenced your philosophy.
That's a great
How
question.
has surfing influenced our philosophy, my philosophy? Surfing is, she's tough. I'm still horrible. I'll never be good. It's a lifelong goal to master surfing. And anybody that's told you they've mastered it has never mastered it. It's the same as grape growing and winemaking. We never stop learning. We never stop the mastery of growing grapes and making wine. And if you think about it, we all have our bosses. I have my daughter, my wife, Silicon Valley Bank, our staff here. But really, ultimately, what's in charge of making wines is Mother Nature. As you can see with the horrible coronavirus, Mother Nature hasn't taken a day off. And behind us, our vines are budding back from dormancy over the winter. And each day is different, each year is different, just like being in the ocean. It's not like golf, you schedule a time to go out. Mother Nature throws tides at us, wind at us, swell at us, then the underground contours of the ocean. So Mother Nature's in charge of surfing, and Mother Nature's in charge of grape growing and winemaking as well. And they're both, I think, very soulful endeavors. They're things that when you're drinking a bottle of wine, it's about memories. It's about experiences. I have a great group of friends in San Diego called the Black's Morning Crew. Shout out to the Black's Morning Crew. And I'm lucky enough to be invited on surfing trips with them. And it's a group I see once or twice a year. But that friendship continues after only seeing each other once or twice. It's like a great bottle of wine. You'll come here, Jeff or Danielle or Aaron or Sandra or myself, you'll take that bottle of Odette home and the Chardonnay and the Cabernet, and you'll been out for a visit, and you'll be quarantined in your apartment, in your house somewhere around the United States, and you'll open that bottle of wine, and hopefully, if we've done our jobs right, that memory of that experience will come back to you. And that's the same with surfing. That's the same with the great things in life, great memories. I always talk about we're in as much the grape growing winemaking business as the memory making.
Debbie Miller says she wishes she was sitting here right now with you.
It'd be good to have you here, Debbie, from Nashville.
Love Nashville.
Well, we are here at Odette, and again, I know that you guys signed up through the CADE Facebook page, but what similarities here? You know, when we bought Odette in 2012, there was not a winery behind us. You built that, John.
There was not. The Stelzner family, Dick Stelzner, moved to Napa Valley in 1963. Visionary guy. He moved here and raised his family in a small house behind us. And he was an artisan. He was a potter. He was a painter. He grew mandarin oranges. He grew olives, which are still located on the hill to the side of us here. And he also grew wine grapes. And over time, he got out of the orange business and the olive business and got into the grape business. And like a lot of growers, one year he probably wanted to make some wine on his own. And slowly but surely got into the winemaking business. And in 2012, we had a mutual friend, attorney here in town, approached us and said, Dick's looking to sell his family business, and he would like you to buy it.
Why you, John?
Why us? Us. Why Plum Jack? Why CADE? Why Odette? Why our organization? And it's a great question, important question. um, he said, because I've seen the way you've treated the vineyards at Oakville and Pontiac, the vineyards on Hell Mountain, that I would hope that you would take our family's legacy, this winery, which was called Stelzner, and continue to honor and respect Stag's Leap District, make Stag's Leap District wines, and enhance what we started. And we're going to let you be the caretakers, the next caretakers of our land.
Wow.
And so lucky. Land like this property does not come up often for sale. And in some ways, he chose us to buy and to continue his family's legacy.
Well, Stag's Leap District is the smallest of the AVAs in the Napa Valley, so it's hard to find land.
Tiny. So that first year, we bought it in February, middle of winter, not as beautiful as it is today. We pruned the vineyards, so we started growing the grapes there in February. In that first year, behind us is a beautiful hospitality lounge, and back then it was where the winery was. So open fermenters outside and press outside, and our winemaker Jeff Owens, Jeff was the assistant winemaker at CADE, and he was promoted to come down here and take on the role as winemaker at this new property we had bought. A lot of unknowns. Bought some land that we never made grapes off, wines off of corn grapes. In the AVA we didn't have any experience in, but we thought it held promise. And so, risk. So we came down here and bought it. That first vintage we made grapes out of every grape on the property. And Dick was very diverse as he set up his farming company with mandarin oranges and olives. He also had many different varietals. So he had the Bordeaux, Cabernet, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, back in Merlot, the 5 Bordeaux varietals. In addition, he had Pinotage, great South African varietal. He also had Tenturia, Italian varietal, very ink, very like almost bull's blood, very dark color.
Well, surely the only Pinotage ever planted in the Stag's Leap District.
Guaranteed, guaranteed. And that first year, I said, Jeff, let's make wine out of every grape on the property and see what we bought. And so we used his winery and made the wines here. And they're all stored in the 20,000 square feet of cave space we have behind us. And we made the wines, and God, they turned out great. Again, Jeff, first time being a head winemaker, from first vintage from a property we just bought, using the previous owner's equipment. And I remember we knew we had something special when our banker, came down, tasted the wine. Rob McMillan, Silicon Valley banker. And Rob said, he tasted out of the barrel, and he goes, John, don't taste anybody else on this wine.
Why?
Why, Rob, it's not any good? He goes, no, it's really good. He goes, the thing is, the banker, bottle every ounce of this and sell it. And which we did. And during this time, Forbes magazine was writing an article. And they talked to a celebrity, they talked to a restaurateur, to a retailer,
Race car driver.
retailer, celebrity race car driver, retailer, importer, a wine critic, 5. And the article, what is the next up and coming cult winery in California? And I remember Daniel Jonas, great sommelier in San Francisco, I think, said one of Peter Michael wines. I'm probably going to mess this up. And the celebrity was Danica Patrick, and Aaron Pott made her wines. And they called the great critic Robert Parker. And the phone started ringing before the article came out, and Robert Parker said Odette Estate.
Wow.
So right there kind of made us feel better or good that we bought this property, that he acknowledged that we were making some darn good wines. So lo and behold, his reviews come out, and everybody loves critics, especially when they give you good reviews, and they hate them when they give you poor reviews.
That's true.
And I remember they come out in the fall, and Sandra and I walked up to the winery, which was now built behind us.
We were so nervous.
Gold LEED certified winery, and Jeff was up there, and I walk into Jeff's office, and Jeff had this look on his face.
He was kind of white.
Like he'd seen a ghost.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Jeff, are you okay? And he goes, John, you know the Robert Parker scores came out. I go, oh, did they? I go, how did we do? Scores are a tricky thing, right? Double-edged sword. And he goes, we did really well. And I go, what was that? We got 100 points. So we made Jeff, Jeff made the perfect wine with the first vintage of grapes that we harvested from this property. And I started out our talk today about talking about the importance of land and people. This is the people's part of the story. How important Jeff is to the making of the wines and what he did.
That's right.
He wanted to make great wines. He cared, and it showed in that first vintage of wine.
Had never happened before.
Never happened before, and a lot of firsts. First finish, winery 100 points, and the first finish for Jeff as a winemaker 100 points. And Jeff went to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. We're so lucky we have 3 great winemaking schools in California: Fresno, Cal Poly, and the great UC Davis. And Jeff was in the first graduating class at Cal Poly, and the first winemaker from Cal Poly to get 100 points apart.
Incredible.
So what do we do?
Is it true that he told you he was top 3 in his class?
He told me he was top 3 in his class, which was amazing. And then later on, I asked how many was in that first graduating class in enology from Cal Poly. 3. So yeah.
But it was still the right call.
It was the right call. So what did we do? We went down to the now closed restaurant, but Red restaurant. And the way we celebrate here in Napa Valley at Odette is we first started out drinking shots of tequila, and then we moved into French champagne. And we celebrated it as a group. So it takes a village. It takes our whole organization to do what we do. And Jeff made the wine, of course he did. But it took the entire staff, myself, Gavin Newsom, Gordon Getty, and our entire staff of people to allow us to achieve this great goal of the first finish.
That's right.
Question?
Yeah, somebody wants to know, once you're LEED certified, do you have to do anything after that to maintain it or achieve it again?
Great question. What do we have to do to maintain our Gold LEED certification? A lot of LEED is building standards, solar, recycled materials, as I mentioned earlier. But also, maybe as important or the most important piece of it is ongoing education. Because maybe in a small way, every time you come visit our wineries, we're going to talk about organic grape growing and Gold LEED certification, why we think it's important, and how you go about doing it. So maybe we'll influence, in even a small way, someone building a home, someone building a building in a city, someone building a factory, and why that is important to do. So ongoing education is part of our commitment, a part of our being part of the LEED, Gold LEED certified world. Great question, though.
What are some of the aspects here at Odette, John, that you incorporated to become a LEED Gold winery?
Well, each property, each wine is different, each property is different. That's good. So here at the Odette Estate, the offices are recycled shipping containers. So a lot of material is sent over from Europe, or these shipping containers came from China, and they're brought into the port of Oakland. And it's more expensive to ship the empty shipping containers back to China to be refilled. So if you want a good deal on a shipping container, go down to Port Oakland. So we went down there, we bought 3 shipping containers and built the office space out of recycled shipping containers.
Wow.
Our architect's a great guy. You met someone tremendous when you do business with them and they become your friend, your lifelong friend. And Juan Carlos Fernandez is that man. Grew up in Guadalajara, Mexico. Was a guy that came, a great American story, came to the United States with nothing, and has now built his own architectural company, doing projects in Europe, Monte Carlo, wineries all over Northern California. But we were his first. And
Well, how did you find him, Don?
well, I went to our general contractor and asked him for recommendations. I spent the day with Carlos. We went to the Balboa, our great restaurant in San Francisco, best burger on the planet. Next time you're at Gresham Fillmore, when it's all behind us, go have a Balboa burger. Went there, went to our wine shop, went to our hotel we had here in Napa at the time, and went to the wineries. At the end of the day, we ended up at a restaurant in St. Helena called La Condesa. And La Condesa is, people ask me, what do I drink when I don't drink our wines? I drink tequila, especially Ocho Blanco. And Carlos and I drank Ocho Blanco together. And I said, let me see your portfolio. And he pulls out his portfolio, and I was expecting a leather-bound binder with all these projects. And it was 2 pieces of paper, a tasting room and a guest house. And I go, Carlos, where's the rest of it? And he looks at me and goes, that's it. And then we've all met people in our lives that you know are the right people, that you have a connection with, or a winery that you have a connection with. And Carlos is the right guy. So like screw cap, like gold LEED certification, like organic farming, taking a risk. And we took a lot of risk, but Carlos delivered. And hence he designed and built the winery here at Odette. Also, other green aspects to Odette. The first winery with a green living roof on it.
Oh, wow.
We want our wineries, our businesses to kind of be respectful of the land. Our show here is not the landscaping, because we have no landscaping. We have vineyards, and that it's just inherently beautiful here. Pine trees, oak trees, people, wine. So we want the winery to kind of disappear. So the winery disappears into the side of the hill. It's all not heated or cooled.
Mm-hmm.
So when you walk in there, make sure to come take a tour here at Odette, because it's an amazing building. I've never heard this before, there's a fan the size of 2 automobiles.
Wow.
It's from the Big Ass Fan Company. Yes, there is the Big Ass Fan Company. So in the summer, they're lucky. They get to wear shorts, our winemaking staff, and t-shirts. Turn on the Big Ass Fan to cool it down, and the cool night air off the bay comes and cools the vineyards as well as the winery down. And then in the winter, instead of heating and cooling all this dead airspace, we wear jackets. We put a sweater on or a jacket. Why waste all this dead airspace heating and cooling?
Right.
And it goes along with the LEED theory.
Sure.
Then all of our barrels are stored underground, which naturally stay about 61 degrees. So we don't have to heat or cool that 20,000 square feet worth of
Right.
space for barrels.
Well, and Carlos designed both properties, but they look very different. Do you know if he was inspired by anything?
I know here he was inspired by the rolling hills. If you look at our label, you'll see some of those influences. You'll see the influences at Odette by the 3 characters in Odette. There are 3 characters. All of our wineries have a Shakespearean bent to them. Gordon Geddes wrote tremendous, well-received reviews of music. A number of them, not all of them, based around Shakespearean characters.
Mm-hmm.
Plum Jack was Jack Falstaff. Odette was a character in one of the plays. And then CADE was a barrel or a cask as well as a character. And the Odette story I love the most that resonates with me is during the 1976 tasting in Paris, where California went up against the best of France at the time. And we took our wines over to Paris. Stephen Spurrier put together the tasting, and we beat the best of Europe. Our next door neighbor here in Stag's Leap Wine Cellar won against the first gross of Bordeaux. Mike Gerges, who made the wines up at Montelena, won the best against Burgundy. And after the tasting was over and the results were announced, one of the judges looked into the ballot box and pulled out her ballot, took a look at a woman, and saw she had voted for the 2 California wines. And she was so upset, she tore up her ballot, threw it up in the air, started screaming, probably swearing in French, and marched out of the room. And her name was Odette Kahn. So we're kind of trying to honor Miss Kahn with a winery here.
Named after her.
With her in Stag's Leap District.
Very graceful.
Yeah.
Very gracious.
Yeah, gracious. So, all different looking.
Yes.
Plum Check, believe it or not, those of you who haven't been there, is a barn out in the middle. It was built in 1886, out in the middle of a vineyard. Again, what's the secret to making great wines? Great grapes, great people.
That's right.
Because you have a car collection, an art collection, a chateau, it's not a guarantee of quality. It's about people's passion, commitment to greatness. It's about having great vineyards to work with.
Oh, we have a lot of questions. Facebook.
People want to know what you're drinking.
Oh, what
We
are
need to move on to the reds.
Well,
Let's move on to the reds.
How about some adaptations made here?
Okay. Adaptation Cabernet. So Adaptation, our first red wine, is, and I hate to call it a second label. What it is wines that don't necessarily make it into CADE or Plum Jack or Odette. Not because they're not good. They might be too structured. They might be too rich and decadent. They might be right in the middle. So we declassify wines from each of the estates every year and blend them into Adaptation. So declassified estate wines. In addition, since we are a state, we can't buy grapes outside of the vineyards we own. This wine we can buy grapes. So having lived in Napa Valley since 1984, I've made a lot of friends who own vineyards.
Yes, you have.
And we have some of the best vineyards in Napa Valley going to this wine because I'd like to do business with our friends. So Adaptation is the largest quantity, which still isn't a lot of wine, that we make. Jeff Owens, our great winemaker here in Odette, makes the wines. They want to come out, and everything he puts into the Bill blend, so those 5 varietals I mentioned earlier. And if you, because he controls aspects of the vineyard, but doesn't control all the farming and the blending. We work with about 20 different vineyards. So he has to put together the assemblage, the master blend into this wine and to make a great wine. And again, value's subjective. It's not inexpensive, but it's about half the price of the estates.
Yep.
And has been super, super popular. I call it my Tuesday night wine because this is what I drink every Tuesday night, along with my hamburger or my barbecue or my brisket. This is perfect for that.
It is.
Or all alone. It's meant to be enjoyed more youthful at a younger age, be more approachable. But the quality of it is just unbelievable.
It is. And I think one of the key things you said there, it's a wine from vineyards. It is not a wine from the bulk juice market. And it's meant to represent place, but that place is just the broader Napa Valley versus our individual appellations and estate wines. Definitely delivers. Yeah.
Did you have another question?
Yes. Got a couple cheers for you guys. We have a cheers from Boca Raton and the rest of South Florida,
Oh, nice.
as well as cheers from Texas. This person is sipping on a bottle of 2014 Premier Napa Valley CADE Estate auction lot.
Wow.
They want to know if they can get more because it's drinking so well.
Sorry to say, that was a one-of-a-kind lot. It was cheers back to Boca, Florida.
Cheers, Boca.
God bless all of you.
South Florida.
I understand you get to go on the beaches tonight at 5 o'clock, so after your bottle of wine, go take a walk on the beach. Maybe it's Jacksonville, but I'm not sure about Boca. And again, cheers to the great state of Texas. Unfortunately, that wine was 5 cases only that we offer at the Premier Napa Valley barrel auction that happens each year here in Napa. So what you have is, that's all that we have. A wine that's different, but they're all different, but really exciting for us is the 2017 CADE 13th single vineyard wine. We make 150 cases of single vineyard wine from the new CADE 13th vineyard. It was the second highest rated wine by Robert Parker in the 17 vintage. Again, a mere 150 cases were made of it. Danielle Sorrell makes it. And with the Food and Wine this week wrote it up as being one of the great wines they've tasted this year. So might want to pick up a bottle or two of that and give that a whirl, because it really is super.
Do you want to touch a little bit on CADE 13th? I know that was really important to you to be able to incorporate that vineyard into CADE.
It was and it is. Again, we're limited by vineyards. So people ask, why can't I buy any more Plum Check, or can't buy any more Odette, or can't buy any more CADE? It's because the vineyard only gives us X tonnage every year. In Mother Nature, some years she's smiling, some years she's not. Could be frost, could be a variety of reasons. So we were running into limitations at CADE. We have 21 plant acres. We buy from a few other growers, but CADE is really, in Howell Mountain, is very difficult to acquire grapes.
Mm-hmm.
So another family, we're selling their family business, the Stokesbury family, and came to us, and again, legacy, doing things right, offered us this beautiful estate. Over 100 acres, 82 acres planted, winery built in the 1880s, in 2016. So it took our 21 acres and the 82 acres, which happens to be right next door to CADE, very similar terroir, and allowed us to have 100 acres of vineyards on Howell Mountain. Keep in mind, there's only 800 acres planted on Howell Mountain. So we have 100 of the 800. So this allowed us to make a little bit more wine up on Howell Mountain under the CADE brand. But as Danielle was making this wine, and Danielle, if you haven't met her too, or watched her videos, she's an amazing human being.
Extraordinary.
She was, I'm not allowed to say this, she was 7 months pregnant.
You are allowed to say that.
7 months pregnant. So she had little baby Blake right here. When we bought the property, we bought it in late October when most of the vineyards have been picked. And she made wine with a day's picking decision.
Amazing.
What she did is amazing.
Yes.
And the first vintage of CADE 13th was that pick.
Amazing.
So some people would say we got the leftovers. I wouldn't say that there are any leftovers. But what she makes out of that wine, out of that block of grapes, is truly spectacular.
We talked about it at CADE a few weeks ago. She made 50 different passes to get the grapes when they're perfect. mean, and even that you guys would allow us to make 50 different passes really speaks to your feet, right? Lifting place to its highest potential.
It does. It's easier to make one pick, right? Make one pick, you have one decision to make. But to make 50 different picks, have 50 different picking days, after 50 different fermentations. I got a great Aaron Miller story from Plumcheck. We were at a dinner party, probably at your house.
House.
It was after a harvest. And Aaron, we were on our drinking some Plumcheck Chardonnay, and he goes, I have to leave. I go, where do you gotta go? You gotta go home? It's Saturday, you can stay out. He goes, no, I have to go check on a fermenter at Plumcheck because it was sticking a little bit. I go, can't you just check on it tomorrow? He goes, no, I want to check on it right now.
It's bothering me.
The difference between being good and being great.
That's right.
He cared so much. It's his wine.
That's right.
He wanted to make sure his wine turned out the best it could. So he left this great party we were having, drinking tons of wine.
He did come back.
And he did Uber,
Yeah.
in case there's that question.
Yeah.
And he did eventually come back. But he went to check on that fermenter.
Yeah.
And you can't ask somebody to care.
No, you can't.
And it comes from his heart. Bless the
True.
people who pray.
This 17 CADE Estate behind us, John. So this is the first vintage to have that new vineyard that we had opportunity to farm ourselves. Is that right?
It is. It's the first vintage. We got to keep all of the grapes
Yes.
from the estate. So this is the first whack that Danielle had at the whole property. And again, we love the reviews when they're good, so we'll mention the good ones. 17, we saw, not that the previous vintages were any less good, but the highest critics reviews we've gotten for the CADE wines came in the 17th vintage. And that was the first vintage, ironically, that the property was incorporated into it.
Mm-hmm.
Good news is we've made a little bit more. Other good news is we made more of it.
Yes.
And so it's more available. We tend to run out. We release the estate wines every year in February. Usually by summer, they're gone. So now we'll have a little more availability
Yeah.
of the CADE, the Plumcheck, and the Odette wines of the 17th vintage.
Just a
What's
few
the
more
question?
shout outs. Scott Gaffney, Tia Green are both here.
Hi, team.
Sarah Knight is cheers from the great state of Mississippi.
Aw, hi, Sarah.
Chris Norris from Michigan. I think you might recognize a Miss Katie Conover from Los Angeles. Charlottesville, Virginia. The St. Augustine beaches open at 6 a.m. And Paul Emerson wants to visit again. And then Michael Kramer loves Hell Mountain.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks all of you. Also, too, we have harvest wood picking in September, October. So if you work for wine, we can always use help picking grapes. So there's always that offer to come out and get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's fun for about 10 minutes.
It looks very romantic on
It
the
is,
movies.
until you
It's
got to
not.
do it. But I know by this fall we're going to have this behind us and be able to celebrate. But yeah, it's another vintage going behind us.
Yeah. Yes, Instagram.
What is your favorite vintage in the last 20 years?
Favorite vintage in the last 20 years? I just had, I'm not going to answer the question, so I'm going to tell you that. Which is the favorite winery? I'm not going to answer that either.
I think I have an answer. Yes.
Yes, I love that. But Sandra and I just had a bottle of the 2012
Oh, okay.
CADE Estate Hell Mountain, which is singing right now.
And Danielle's first vintage.
Danielle's first vintage. The other wine I had pre-Corona with Gordon Getty at his house. We do something called brown bag tastings because we like to take our grape growing and winemaking seriously, but we don't want to take ourselves too seriously. So a great way not to take yourself too seriously is taste wine in brown bags because they're not influenced by the vintage, the brand, where the wine comes from. So we were down at Gordon's house and did a brown bag tasting. And I pulled a 2001. Those of you that have that in the cellar, you're darn lucky. We don't have much of it left. Plumcheck Estate, not the reserve, the estate. And that won the night. So if you got any 01 Plumcheck Estate, pop that one open. And what I had recently was the 2016 adaptation Petite Syrah.
Really?
Kind of overlooked sometimes here at our
Yes.
portfolio of great Cabernets.
Well, we sell out of it pretty quick too.
You do, but that white pepper, black pepper, Jeff does such a great job managing the tannins and letting the purity of Petite Syrah come through. That wine is also just super. So there's three choices. Any aged Plumcheck Chardonnay,
Oh.
2-3 years in the bottle. Napa Valley Chardonnays do age. The same with the Odette Reserve Chardonnay. 2 or 3 years in the bottle, just they become honeyed and decadent. Not oxidized and butterscotch, but really bring out some great nuances.
I think it has to do with the acidity, not to get too geeky. Yeah. Yes, we have another question.
Just Lindsay Della Sala said that she had the 2012 CADE Mountain last weekend and it was insane.
Oh,
So good.
fantastic. Yes, Instagram.
Do you have, or what are your future plans for building on the Gold LEED certification? And would you be open to making all of your properties Gold LEED?
So right now we have, great question, how are we going to improve on Gold LEED? I think again, part of this ongoing education. We had recently, the school teachers from Napa Valley, public school teachers. Katie and Maddie both went to our Selena High School and our local schools. I'm a big believer in public schools. And we wanted to inspire public school teachers that believe it or not, going into the grape growing, winemaking, and hospitality business is a great career track. So we had 2 days worth of school teachers from the county of Napa come through. And then, sounds so old, my daughters make their buying decisions not only on quality but on social values. And we talked a lot about the social values of our organization. Again, why LEED is important, why organic grape growing is important, why being part of a team is, to me, much more fulfilling than being Chateau Conover or Chateau Getty or Chateau Newsom. Plumpjack CADE Odette is about the sum of parts, the whole, and how this inspires us and inspires people that have joined our little family of wineries. So anything we can do to help inspire people to do things in what we think is the right way to do it is how we're going to contribute back. To go back and retrofit a winery to be Gold LEED certified is difficult to the point where you need to basically tear it down and start from scratch. Recycled materials, going in the sheetrock and using Levi's scraps and blue jeans is really cost prohibitive. But however, we're in the process of hopefully at some point rebuilding the CADE Estate winery, and which will be Gold LEED certified when we build that winery.
So what you're saying is, anytime we build new, we would build to the specifications of LEED Gold.
Gold LEED. And the fourth
Why not platinum, John?
Why not platinum? When they put a bus in or a train into our wineries, we'll be platinum.
There has to be public
They
transportation.
have to be public transportation.
Yeah.
And the fourth winery, again, the new property next to CADE, was built in 1886. It was the 13th winery in the state of California, hence CADE 13. Two brothers from Bordeaux, the Broom brothers, built it back then. And if you can believe it, they could have bought vineyards anywhere in the United States, probably in the world. And they chose this outpost, Hell Mountain, no power, no water, up in the middle of nowhere. But it's an old stone, field stone. It was a ghost winery that was rehabilitated. Again, a very different experience than CADE Estate, which is brand new.
That's right.
But go visit both, very different.
You should totally go visit the 13th vineyard as well. And I agree with you. The juxtaposition of the two of them are so modern. One's modern and one's classic. But until you can come and visit us, we are offering virtual tastings on all of our websites that you can have a person here at CADE, Odette, or Plumpjack host you in a virtual tasting at home.
And it is fun. We just had, actually before we started talking today, we had a couple from Plano, Texas, who are doing a virtual tasting with April here on staff. And they had their 3 estate wines in front of them, and went sat down and talked about the difference, what was the same, and a great way to be sequestered in your home.
Exactly.
We're going to have a couple of new ones coming up that I think keep an eye on. We're going to do a partnership with the Great Mustards Restaurant. Those of you that have been to Napa, it was really the first fine cuisine restaurant in Napa Valley. So we're going to do a competition. We invite you to join in. We're going to pick a dish, maybe their great pork chop, million served they claim, and we're going to send out the recipe, cookbook, along with a set of wines that will pair well with pork chop. Then we're going to take you over to Cindy Paulson's Mustards, and Cindy will be there cooking up the pork chop, and you can cook the pork chop at home. And we're going to take our winemaker, hopefully Jeff Owens, up here, and we're going to taste the pork chop along with Cindy and see what wine works best with pork chop. And then the next one will be the Balboa burger, the best burger on the planet. We're going to go with Goron down there, a great chef at the Balboa, and we're going to taste Balboa burger and a great baguette.
With the 3 estate cabs.
Could be.
That'd be a good afternoon.
That'd be a good pairing right there. So we have some great content. Danielle, who's barrel crazy, she's going to do barrel madness video. Aaron Miller is going to do a video on screw cap and cork. Very emotional subject for us and for a lot of people. What's better? What's worse? Why the hell do you do screw caps? That's
right.
The worst idea ever. I remember first time I walked into a restaurant, I'm all, what's your screw charge? I thought I was going to be asked to leave. But yeah, very controversial packaging decision we made, and Aaron will go into that.
I remember you telling me when you made the decision to go to screw cap, you got faxes. You think people still get faxes today?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was the marketing groups. Your career's over, screw cap. What a dumb idea. You'll be always known as a screw cap. Number one, plump jack, that's a dumb name. You're going to put screw caps on it. And then the faxes, no internet at the time. We're saying thank you. Thank you for doing that. It's a better closure. We want our wines to taste like we want them to taste when we bottle them, not being affected by TC. Anyways, whole different discussion that Aaron, much more the scientist than I am, can walk you through on that. So that's upcoming videos we're going to do.
Fantastic. Oh, well, I want to say thank you, John. Thank you for inspiring all of us
Well, thank you.
at Plump Jack, CADE Odette, and allowing us to do what we do here. And you know, I think the enthusiasm and the passion and the authenticity with which you speak shines through, and in everything that we do.
One more group to thank. You
No.
guys, thank you, because we
don't
couldn't
get
do it
to
without you.
We do not
God
get to do
bless
this
you.
without you.
Be safe and drink well.
Cheers.